Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Hi there, and welcome to New Life Live. So glad you're here. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be here with Dr. Alice Benton and Dr. Jill Hubbard. Hello there, co-here people.
Hello, Steve. Hi, folks.
And if you want to join us, 1-800-229-3000 is the phone number that you could call right now. Now, I want to talk to you about something. I want these two wonderful clinicians to talk about it. You know, the only thing you can really change outside of yourself, you can change a baby, which means you're changing a diaper. And that's pretty, that can be unpleasant.
Yes.
Trying to change an adult is also very unpleasant and messy because whereas you can change the diaper of a baby, you simply cannot change another person. Mm-hmm. So you guys, brilliant as you are, tell us, why is it so hard for people to get that message? And rather than work on trying to change the other person, work on changing me and trying to accept the person that I think needs to change. Why is that so difficult for people to understand or practice?
I think we get stuck in two ruts, and one is self-deception. I've justified my bad behavior to such an extent that I don't even think it's such bad behavior anymore. I've got good reasons for doing it. And shame. I'm too embarrassed to really look at how bad off I am and the mistakes that I have made. And if there's an insufficient source of love and acceptance in my life, then it's tough to get out of those ruts because that love and acceptance is the solution to help people out.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's so much easier to see things in other people, right? The log and the speck, right? And so, and especially I think as women, because we're always wanting to, if we could just slightly fix things, then there would be good, right, in our lives. And so if we could just change our spouse or change our sister or get them to see, and then we don't realize, right, that even if our part is much smaller, that's the part we need to focus on, right? And that other people are so much more open when we take some ownership, right?
Yeah.
And most people don't want to be a project of someone else.
Well, as you guys are aware, I took 23 new lifers on a trip to Scotland. These were all men. And one of the things that came up was the power of encouragement. And they were talking about how just any kind of encouragement and affirmation just does something that they don't even want to acknowledge, but it's kind of a supernatural feeling in some situations. But yet they feel, and they said, and you know, the things that are pointed out, I do need to work on, but they feel overly criticized. And it shuts them down and invites them to close down as a man. I mean, that's just from my gender's perspective. I was just with all men, and boy, do I ever know that it must be the same thing for women. And so, be nice if we could eliminate the criticism, hoping to change, and provide more encouragement, which actually frees up a person to change because they're not feeling like they need to defend themselves or stand their ground.
Right. Encourage what you want more of.
Yeah.
That usually works better.
And there's this thing of, I know what you want, or I know what I want, but what am I inviting in the things that, am I inviting what I want, or am I really distancing the possibility or lowering it greatly? All right, we'll take a break, come right back for New Life Live. So glad you're with us here today.
My girlfriends and I have been searching for so long to try to find an event to attend.
Lumina is a new women's conference designed to inspire your faith so you can lead and live confidently from God's Word.
It was nice to come here and just realign myself with who God says He is in my life.
The Lumina Conference is a 2-day experience. 1 full day of worship and teaching in Museum of the Bible's World Stage Theater, and a half-day guided tour through Museum of the Bible.
You are literally immersed in the Word of God. You can walk through the Old Testament. You can walk through the New Testament.
Lumina is for women of all generations, cultures, and denominations. It's a great place to gather with women from your church and community.
If you want some fellowship and you want to be strengthened, this is the place you want to be.
This year's Lumina Conference is October 27th and 28th in Washington, D.C.
It was absolutely life-changing.
For more information, go to luminawomen.org.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back with Dr. Jill Hubbard, Dr. Alice Benton, and we're going to go right...
Steve, I got to say
What?
something.
Oh, say something.
Back to the initial segment, because
Okay.
we also need a model who will show us safe confession. And Steve, you were the first person I ever knew of, especially a prominent Christian figure who would talk about shortcomings. And I had never heard that before, and that made it safe for me to start to do the same, Steve.
And that's, you saying that is why we keep you on the program.
Yeah.
I need that affirmation and encouragement.
I'm
Thank
still
you.
working on it, but I'm still here.
But you know, when I started doing this program decades ago,
Yes, decades.
the rule was never disclose.
That's how we're trained as psychologists.
And
Therapists.
when I was in seminary, I felt like I was called to be a revealer of what I had been through. And I'm really grateful for that part of the calling on my life and be able to do it right here. Thanks for bringing that up, Alice. God bless you. Okay, how about we go to Mike from Annapolis, Maryland, and he listens on WAVA. Hey there, how are you? How you doing, Mike?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yeah, hear you well.
Well, thank you guys for all you do. I've been a long-time listener. My question for you guys, I guess almost 30 years ago, my daughter and my brother's daughter were both abused by my father. Initially, I went and did what I thought was right. And I had him arrested, put in jail, and then wanted to start working therapy to bring him back into the family. On the other hand, which we did, and then on the other hand, my brother, very closed off, typical tough guy, Marine, wanted nothing to do with him, told him next time he sees him, he'll be at his funeral. As closed off as he is, hold on. I want to know how to make sure my brother and his family are safe. We grew up Italian Catholic and Jewish, quite a mix. So there's a strong family bond, you know, very close related with each other. But I'm worried about their salvation. We're going up there this week, and I want to be able to talk to them about Jesus and salvation. I'm very Christian now. I don't really follow the Catholic ways, but he still does. But he's like, why am I going to believe in a God who would let this happen? You know, that's where he is.
Yeah.
I don't know how to address this. This is the way my daughter feels. They're both very strong-minded and hard.
Yeah.
Closed off.
Okay. I want to start by just saying that God allows things to happen because Adam and Eve really messed up in the garden where things like this would never happen. But because that any of us who would have been Adam or Eve would have done the same thing, we live in a fallen world. And God doesn't, I mean, if he would allow this, it kind of fits with him allowing people to be hurt in war or in a traffic accident. But it's so personal when it's your own child. It's just horrible. We don't live in a world where right before a traffic accident, these big balloons come out of our car supernaturally and we bounce off of each other. No, this is a dangerous place to live. And we're not going to be aware of everything. So God is doing what he has consistently done over the years by allowing things to happen, but always there in the aftermath to help with the healing of it. And so to truly understand how he could allow it, it's all part of him giving us the choice. And some people are going to choose evil, and sometimes that evil is going to be done to us or someone we love. So there's a big picture here. I just wanted to throw that in before we talk about anything else. And then, Jill, what do you think?
And I think it's hard, I know, conceptually to think about that in God's lovingness, he allows evil, right? Because when you're the victim of it, and we talk to people all the time who've experienced all kinds of atrocities. And I get this question. It's like, how could a loving God allow me to be raped? Or, worse beyond that, right? And so it is hard to wrap your mind around that. Why doesn't God just step in and intervene and save us from all these things? But if he did that, and by the way, we don't see all the things he does save us from, right? If he did that, we would all be puppets, right? We would have no free will. And so in his love, he allows us to make these choices. And unfortunately, evil people to make evil choices, right?
Yeah. And Alice, you were brought up in a Catholic home. What are you thinking here when you hear about this?
Mike, I really didn't understand what forgiveness was about. I mixed forgiveness with reconciliation in my Catholic understanding and just in my faith walk in general. I didn't know the difference. And I don't think that there is an adequate explanation for why so much evil is allowed to happen, especially for your brother's heart and how much he's suffering on behalf of his daughter. It is pretty incomprehensible that God does allow all this to happen, despite these explanations that we try to hold on to. And I'd prayerfully delay the explanation, look for a chance to see if he's open, but lead with empathy and validating that he has every right to hold hatred towards your father for the rest of his life. But what I learned about the difference of forgiveness and reconciliation is that idea that bitterness is poisoning me. It's justified bitterness that I have towards this man that perpetrated against me, but it's negatively impacting me. And it allows my perpetrator to stay very active in my head and my heart, even though I have no contact with him. He kind of gets to control my mood. He gets to control how I feel and what I think about. And the process of forgiveness, even if you have to separate it from God in an obvious way because your brother can't tolerate that, forgiveness is the process of breaking the chain that my perpetrator holds to my head and my heart. It's unshackling myself. And it frees me from my perpetrator. So I would try to share that idea along with validating. He can still hold on to his anger, though. He can hold on to his hatred because it's by the compassion and the understanding that might allow him to hear an opposing truth later on.
Okay, and one final word. Those may not be even appropriate to bring up. I think you can in some way, but don't go there thinking you need to close the deal on Jesus.
Good point.
And don't
or
talk,
on convincing him.
Right.
Yes.
And don't talk too soon. Here's what I'm thinking. Help him to see and feel your love for him by how you're being with him, how you talk, all of those things. Let him see that and feel that before you would ever talk about faith. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Also, I wanted to bring up that we just went to Intimacy and Marriage this weekend at Ben in Virginia.
Okay.
Which, I wanted to bring that up, and I know that, it's very Christian based. because my wife and I had a wonderful time. Thank you guys very much for all you do again.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, yeah, I was thinking maybe bringing that up and just hoping that he's somehow taken by it and that we're working on a marriage and investing. We want to do something yearly.
Yeah.
To, invest in our marriage. Yeah.
Okay. So, let me just say this. I have talked with atheist, Jewish folks, Muslim who have gone to that, and I've asked them, did you find the way that Christ was presented or the Christian faith was presented in an offensive way at any point? And the answer has always been no. So it's not like, I think you see, it's not like we're cramming Jesus down anybody's throat. But here's the thing. If he and his wife could go there, he would experience something very different. And part of the workshop is about forgiveness. And it would bring credibility to the Christian faith because he would have been involved with a Christian event and see that it was so very effective. And maybe it doesn't change him. Maybe it takes more than that, but he'll see the change in other people. But I appreciate your spirit so much, and probably don't even need to say it. But I am so often confronted with people that want to go down there, give the 4 spiritual laws, get them on their knees, accept Jesus, and it's just a longer process than that.
Well,
and I'm so glad you care in this way.
Yeah, and I like kind of the side door approach, Mike, of emphasizing how great this was for your marriage. I mean, your brother is Italian, Catholic, and Jewish, right? Okay, so there's some religious background there, and that it's more about working on marriage and relationship than it is a faith conference, right? You just play up the marriage part, and people certainly, like you said, Steve, can go take the good that fits for them and leave the part that doesn't, right? Now, we hope something will sink in, but...
Yeah, and just one more thing. I'm sure that you went through a grieving process over what happened. And so a lot of times a very stoic person doesn't even know what a grieving process is. And in fact, rather than go to grief and sadness and feel the horror of that, they go to anger because that gives them a sense of power and control. And so if he's going to forgive, I think he would hear this in the marriage conference, but a lot of people have never forgiven because they've never grieved, which then allows them to accept and then forgive. Alice, did you have one more thing you want to say?
Just hoping we can bring up Dr. Stoop's book, Forgiving What You'll Never Forget.
Yeah. And let me send you a copy of that. Maybe you can share it with him. But I think it really does provide amazing insight into the God of forgiveness and love and how things happen and why they happen. And I'm really glad that you called, Mike, and hope that
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you went to the Intimacy in Marriage workshop because, you say you had a great experience, and I'm so grateful for that. All right, coming your way, Forgiving What You'll Never Forget. I'm so glad he called. Now, let's go to Mary. Sacramento, California is where Mary is calling from, and she listened to the program, delivered as on the app provider, from the app provider, from the App Store.
Hopefully not divider.
So, hello, Mary of the App Store. How are you?
Hello, Steve. Hello, ladies. This is like my second time calling the program. I called several months ago, and I was referred to a counselor in Atlanta. And I've been going to him. He's a good counselor.
Good.
The problem is that I have an issue with my husband, a lot of issues. We've been married for 34 years, and our relationship was very, very dysfunctional. We have 3 grown children that they're out of the house right now. but they are very affected by our relationship. And two of them rarely talk. One of them actually never calls. He never wants to get with us. The girl, talks minimally, the minimum she could do. The oldest son, is trying with us. The problem is that my husband, I've been listening and reading and trying to figure out what's going on. And I think he has the avoidant attachment style.
Yeah.
And I think I have the anxious style.
Well, Mary, I'm going to ask you to hold on here because you can hear the music. We have to go to this break. We'll get to more of you explaining things and us to provide you some help here. You're listening to New Life Live. Glad you are. 1-800-NEW-LIFE if you need some help.
Our marriage was just so toxic and just so many simple interactions that turned into conflict. And so we signed up to participate in the workshop.
This is Steve Arterburn. Our Intimacy and Marriage Workshop examines the various types of intimacy, spiritual, emotional, and physical, as well as the challenges of experiencing true intimacy.
The tools that we received from the Intimacy and Marriage Workshop were tremendous. It was so much that we were able to take and utilize and actually come back and apply.
Don't settle for a miserable marriage or even one that's just okay. It's possible to have that great marriage you always want.
The next Intimacy and Marriage Workshop is October 20th to the 23rd in Dallas, Texas. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE to find out more or go to newlife.com. 1-800-639-5433.
Best decision we could have ever made. There's no price that we can put on having healthy marriages.
Chris Williams on coaching.
Oftentimes I get asked, what is the difference between therapy and coaching? The biggest difference between the two is that a therapist is going to be looking for a diagnosable mental health condition, whereas a coach is going to look at a particular issue and help a person work through that.
If you need a coach, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
If you're looking at an issue in your life that you just kind of want to change, whether it be your weight or leadership or other areas of behavioral patterns, check out coaching. There can be some really, really helpful things for you.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 and talk to us about getting a New Life coach. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We are back, and we're talking to Mary. And Mary, you were explaining that your husband's a problem. It's caused a problem with the kids. What's the situation right now with you and him?
The situation right now is that we are like as if we're silently divorced at home. He is working, he's providing, but he doesn't want to have a relationship, because of, we tried before. We've been married for 34 years, but he has given up, doesn't want to work anymore. He said, I'm tired of, I don't want to, work on the relationship. I'm struggling. I'm trying to do what I need to do for myself. I'm working on my issues, but my biggest concern is by him just giving up on basically everything except work. Even though our children are adults, but they have told us in our face that they are affected by how things are going with us and with him. They keep on looking at him, seeing him very passive. He's been always passive. Doesn't want to do anything with his life.
Right. So what's the question for us that you were hoping we could give you some help in?
I'm trying to please God. I'm trying to see what God wants me to do in this. What is my responsibility? How do I'm praying, but is there something else that I need to be doing Sometimes I feel like I need to talk to him, tell him that, I already did actually told him how the kids are affected.
And Mary, help us understand what impacted them. Because if there was silent treatment and frigidity in the house for a long time, it may have been that. It sounds like there's a piece to the puzzle we're missing, that it was so bad, some part of it was so bad that some of the kids aren't talking at all or very little. What are we missing?
We portrayed we were not living the Christian life, that we crammed down their throats very rigidly growing up. And that's, I feel like one of them, the youngest boy, he's right now 28. He doesn't want anything to do with God or Christianity or with us.
So that's helpful to know. You were forceful with faith. And I would guess, Mary, that after living with such a passive partner for so long, that perhaps anger came out of you in maybe unhealthy ways that the kids witnessed. You said yes to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, very yes to that, because I feel like I was a disciplinary. I was trying to do everything the father and the mother should do. Very passive, did not take, whenever I asked him to take his role, he would do it in such a aggressive way that one time he kicked out our oldest son out of the house because he was bullying his brother and sister. He just got his bags and told them to leave. So whenever he wants to be involved, he does it in a very, he's like passive-aggressive. He's passive, and then he does something. He does it,
really abrasively. Mary, you've been in an impossible position for all these years because you've had to do double work to make up for his passivity and then to try to clean up after his abrasiveness. But you also humbly admit that, of course, you got angry too after all this time. So I'm sure you're already doing your work in your good counseling and probably working on making that confession to your children and starting to make some amends to them. Yes, you are. Good. Now, you and your counselor may also need to consider, would a period of separation, of intentional separation, perhaps also be necessary to jog this situation in the hope that leaving temporarily might help to change your husband's giving up stance that he's taken? Is that something you're discussing and strategizing with your counselor?
I actually thought of that, and I even shared it with our oldest son. And because my husband, reverts to drinking and smoking and very bad depression, he thinks that if I do that, he will just resort to drinking and just get worse and worse and worse. And this is what my fear is, because he was suicidal 3 times during our marriage.
Okay.
And
so your husband. Mary. Your husband has a lot of issues here. And the sense that I got from how you were describing his interactions or lack thereof with the family is that he really doesn't know how. He doesn't know what to do. He feels inept, right? So the few things he can think of don't really work. So then he goes back to being very passive, right? And if he has a history of depression and now he's been drinking, right? Well, you're not even dealing with him. You're dealing with the alcohol, right? That's influencing him. And that is a place to start. I mean, I would think that at the very least, you would want to tell him that let's go to intimacy and marriage through New Life, right? As a place to just examine and see if there's any hope. And if you're not even willing to do a weekend, right, that's where then the separation might come in. But the other piece is you can't move forward with the alcohol use here. That is getting in the way of the relationship. And so that piece has to be addressed. And he's self-medicating his depression.
Yep. One of the ways that you might encourage him to go is to say, before you give up totally, I'd like us to do this. And if you'll just go and do this with me, then we can work together on how we're going to live together afterward. But I can see that you're not happy. I'm not happy. There will be some insights there. Whether we stay together or not, there'll be insights there that will help both of us. So let's go and do that rather than to do nothing. for the marriage or for each of us individually. We'll take a break. We'll come right back with more New Life Live.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Prayer, 100 Days of Freedom from Depression, and 100 Days of Peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We are back, and before we go back to Mary, I just want to mention it might be time to say to your pastor or ministry leader, it's time for this church to have a life recovery group. And they're so easy to start, and so much can come out of it. I mean, I've seen churches go from a little tiny group to 200 people in that church attending life recovery groups. If you are interested, you could just go to liferecoverygroups.com, or you could call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Mary, I really hope that we can help you with something that really could change things. And Jill had a thought at the break here.
Right. So, Mary, in all that I said to you, I was thinking about it on the break. And if it's true that he has been depressed and he's really drinking a lot, while I think our marriage weekend is great, if he's going there and drinking all weekend, that's not going to be as effective. And so I'm wondering if you are able to maybe lean in a bit to him with some compassion for his well-being and talk about how you know that he's depressed and that his giving up, I mean, giving up is never an option, because when you say you're giving up, it's kind of a passively controlling stance. So you're never just staying in one spot. Like, you can't tread water. You're either moving forwards or you're sliding backwards. And so it's only going to get worse. So you and your son being worried about him is real, because it will get worse. So what about taking him to a psychiatrist to be evaluated for depression? And then
he has been to a psychiatrist, and he's been taking medication. Every time he takes medication, he said it doesn't work because he has not been dealing with his issues. He just, wants to take medication, and they keep increasing the dosage, and it doesn't. He hasn't been sleeping well.
Okay, does the psychiatrist? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Does the psychiatrist know that he drinks?
When I go with him to the counseling, when I mention it, I tell him that's why it's not working. We used to go, but he goes to psychiatrist by himself. But he's not like drinking a lot now. He's he drinks on the weekends. He smokes. He vapes. He switches.
Is he also doing pot?
No, he's not doing marijuana. That's what you mean.
Right.
No.
Mm-hmm. So, Mary,
he tried it.
I want to make sure you're getting built up through the Al-Anon approach, where you're around other family members of people that are abusing substances, even though he's up and down with how much he uses, because there are principles you learn by going to those meetings and by learning boundaries and practicing them. You've tried so many things already, and we know that just anger doesn't work. We know that starting to distance ourselves from a person who is unwilling to change little by little is what can adjust their motivation. And I hear that his suicidality and his drinking, you're afraid that will get worse if you leave. And I need to gently say, in your desire to protect him, I think you're also trying to control what he does. And we just don't have that much control over another person. And so I also hope you'll strategize with your counselor, how you'll take a very firm approach if your husband does threaten suicidality, and you'll get the psychiatric emergency team and the police if he threatens suicidality. But you won't let that threat dictate your life and dictate whether or not you do what's right and best for you and the rest of the family.
And one final note, any involvement that your son can be with you in talking with him, and probably the best non-intervention talk is to say, here's what I remember about us. So you talk about the good past, and then you talk about what has happened with the drinking, the depression, all that stuff. And then you say, and here is what I see now. And I would love to help you get back to that guy. That guy didn't want out of our relationship. He wanted all of our relationship. Of course, this guy wouldn't want to be in a relationship. Let's get you back to where I think in the long run you want to be and where you're at your best. That's a way, because that's really what an intervention is or does. Let's see. I will send you a copy of Take Your Life Back. Maybe that will be something you can read, share some of the concepts there. Really glad that you called. I'm going to also send you a Life Recovery Bible. And I hope there's some great encouragement there through Scripture that aligns with 12 steps. And the advice for you to get into Al-Anon could be the most valuable thing.
And your son, too. Your oldest son.
No kidding. That's right. All right. So glad you called. Let's go to Ann. Philadelphia is where she's calling from, WBYN. Hi there. How are you, Ann? Hi.
I'm good. Hi.
Good. How can we help?
So I think my question is kind of a two-part question.
Okay.
Wanting to know how, it's interesting that you were talking about grieving, how to grieve this process of letting your children grow into adulthood. And it's a strange time of life for me as a mom, as a female. All of our children are adults, 26 to 21. And our youngest is the one that I'm calling about particularly. We have 4 sons. And they are all doing well and doing their thing. Our youngest, last year, we had to pull him out of college. He was very depressed and said he was suicidal. So we pulled him out and brought him home and really had very little to no requirements. I mean, he was in a very bad way. Got him into counseling.
What got him to that very bad way? How did he get to that very bad way in your thinking?
That's a good question. He's so non-communicative, and that's part of my question, is how to interact with him. And it's a strange dynamic because we want our children to grow apart from us and be independent, and that's normal and good, but yet there's this dynamic of, how are you doing and what's going on? And the part of the dynamic that I think that kind of pushed him over the edge is he was really struggling. I think he has probably some tendencies to lean towards just being distracted. I don't know if I would go as far as ADD, but school got overwhelming for him. He was failing, and we didn't know until it was too late to save it. And then that threw him under the water. He has a girlfriend that he's had since his freshman year that's, I would say, at that time, very codependent upon him. So the requirements that she was putting on him, school was putting on him, he's the kid that went to school when it was COVID, went to school for 2 weeks in person. He just struggled then in the beginning.
Okay.
And can you tell us, how are things now? Is he still living with you, and is he refusing to talk to you entirely? What's the situation now?
So, yeah, so what he had kind of dropped on us, and what he does is when he does call, he'll speak very quickly. I want to let you know that I'm doing this and I have this plan, and he'll just kind of drop all of this where we almost can't ask questions. And so he had a plan. We have him off-campus housing, and you pay rent whether you live there or not. We were hoping he would come home and live with us, but he didn't. And he had a plan. Then he was going to get a job, and then he has to make up classes. So
So he's gone back to school? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes, okay. He's done his time at home, recuperated, did okay enough that we gave the thumbs up. Let's give it a try. So he's done.
And is your main question, how do I get him to allow me to ask questions and have him answer them?
Well, he's been continuing therapy, which we're paying for virtually. He's and I don't know and I know they're private sessions, but what kind of theories or helpful things are they talking? And
have you asked for a session with his counselor,
or to go with him?
I did ask for a session with his last counselor, and then he switched to a new counselor. So we haven't asked for a session with the new counselor. I went with him to one of the sessions in the beginning. He literally pulled his hood over his head, and it was a very awkward situation.
So over the break, because we're coming to the music, I want you to think about, was there anything that happened on your and your husband's part that may have made it difficult for your son to communicate with you? Are there styles you and your husband portray that make it difficult? Because obviously your son is suffering from depression, so he's shutting down. He's got his reasons for why he's struggling right now. So what might it be about you and your husband? And that will help us then give you some advice.
Okay, I'm really glad that you called. We'll be discussing this over the break, give you the best that we can right after this. You're listening to New Life Live. So glad you are. If you need help, 1-800-NEW-LIFE, newlife.com.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family, or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and
it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step towards genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. Steve Arterburn here, and we're talking with Ann, son not doing too well. Alice, you had asked a question.
And did you come up with one thing on your and your husband's side that can make it difficult for your son to interact with you?
Yeah. So I did think about it, and I think that there have been times, sad to report, more than I want to say, that I would be happy to say that it would be infrequent, but more frequent than I want to say, where we've had, sort of some explosive responses.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop you there because that's what we needed to know. Thank you for that. And offering that humility to your son and asking, perhaps we could be included in a session with your therapist, because I know I've added to the wedge between us, and then your therapist can give me feedback about how I can better support you.
Yeah, really important.
Well, right. And you want to lean into your son and say, I'm your biggest fan. We want to come alongside you. We want to help you adult and to be successful. And so in order to do that, we need some information. It might be, Ann, that you have to say, unless we get some information from you, we may have to then limit the money we give you, right? You have to tie it to something, because it's not an option while you're still in school and we're supporting you for us to not have minimal communication. He sounds very kind of slippery, Ann, and all over the place. You want to be careful to not be all over the place with him, right? So be clear on what you're needing and wanting, and come back to that. Sometimes like a broken record. Nonetheless, son, we need to address these things first. That's a great idea, son. However, we need to have some basics in place first.
Yeah, and I really sense that he probably has ADHD.
Yeah.
In high school.
Don't be afraid of that.
Yeah, in high school there's structure, and in college there isn't, and that's many times when it surfaces for the first time. He sounds like
it's harder to adult.
Yeah, and he can be an adult, but it's hard and it's easy for him to get overwhelmed. So I would be wanting to explore that with his therapist. What do you think? And if you go to some attention deficit disorder website, you'll see there are about 7 things that can determine that. Well, that's what it is. So.
And also, make sure that there is no self-medicating that's happening along with it.
So I will send you a copy of the new book with Jim Phillips that we wrote together called Understanding and Loving Your College Student. You're going to find some very, very important and deeply spiritual direction that you can take with him, and I'll send that to you. And anybody else can get a copy for a gift of any amount. Speaking of deeply spiritual, Larry Sonnenberg's in the studio. And Larry, what do you have for us, my friend?
Well, Steve, I'd like you and the other guest hosts here today to feel encouraged, because this radio program is amazing. And so there's a testimony here. It covers a lot of ground, but it's short. 4 years ago, I was devastated because my husband of 30 years was arrested for child pornography. And if it wasn't for your ministry and the Restore Conference, I could not have survived this trauma. Today, I feel at peace. I have the right tools and support system to overcome my daily struggles. Your program is so helpful in my recovery. I listen to you on a daily basis, and I laugh, cry, and I have hope and feel empowered by God to do all things through him.
Amen. Boy, that's wonderful.
Yeah, way to go, guys. That's great.
Thank you.
And that's why we seek your support, ladies and gentlemen. It's just it's an amazing thing that just listening to the radio, somebody hears that spark and they do something different. They feel that God can work through them and the Holy Spirit will do things for them. And that's what we do here, and that's why we need you to continue supporting New Life. And if you're one of those people that one day you're going to make a gift to New Life, well, today's the day.
Today's the day.
So please help us out. We could use your help. And thank you, everybody who has been giving.
And when you do support us, we will send you a copy of Understanding and Loving Your Child in a Screen-Saturated World, co-author Dr. Alice Benton with me. And boy, it is a very, very well-written book. Alice did the heavy lifting on this, and a fantastic writer. So call us, gift of any amount, I'll send that to you. It's a $16.99 book, any amount. If you can help us in a big way, you might be able to make up for, or you will, some of the folks that, given the economy, inflation, and other things, they have not been able to support us or continue. And so you could step in a big way and take care of that. It's a big summer slump we're making up for, and we sure do need your help. And we are grateful for absolutely every person that gives whatever you can give. Anything else that you want to add, Larry?
No, I just love what happens here. Everything about this ministry is amazing. You know, when I got here 20 years ago, I didn't really believe in or know what counseling was and what it could do.
Larry,
confession. I'm confessing, yes. So kick me out of the studio right now.
Well, Larry, you were from a ministry that it was more about how you think and attitude and things like that versus, wow, most of us have been hurt or most of us are being hurt. We need some adjustments. We have defects, and we help you find that path. So it was wonderful to watch your conversion of mentality to see. I didn't even know, you didn't know that there was this world of Christian counseling that could be so helpful.
I couldn't imagine that your hurt and pain from the past really had any impact on what you're doing now. Yeah, get
because
over
none
it.
of us want to believe
get over it. Therapy. That's right. That's worked really well.
But I'm a believer. You have turned me around.
Yeah, there are two approaches in the Christian world that are so common and so damaging. One is you need to get over this, and then the other one is an all you have to do is mentality. All you have to do is just. And you don't even need to listen beyond that, because if some really crummy stuff has happened, or it is happening, being abandoned or abused, there is no all you have to do is.
Right.
All you have to do is very complicated, and we want to help you get through that path of what you need to do, even though you don't want to do. And I think that's the key. It's hard to want to go through the process of getting better, but when you're ready, 1-800-NEW-LIFE is the number to call.
And it doesn't diminish that God is all powerful. Of course He is. He could cure any of us, but He set up a system turning us to other human beings to get comfort and prayer and healing from one another. That's His design for us.
And people that say, I don't need, or no one needs Christian counseling, here's what you're doing. You're essentially saying, I, whoever I am, know more than these Christian colleges and Christian universities who have these brilliant Christian professors who want to help people connect and heal folks one-on-one, not just from the pulpit in a sermon. You're saying that all of them are confused or they're doing something heretical. And all of these people like Alice and Jill who have sought an education to be a Christian counselor, you're essentially saying, I know more than all of them. They're confused or they don't understand. And I'm telling you, I don't blame you for being that way, because there are a lot of preachers that preach that way. All you have to do is look and listen to some of the people that we've helped. Nobody turns away from Jesus because of counseling. They get closer to Jesus because all of those barriers and blockades are out of the way through the process of Christian counseling. If you need help, it's 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Larry, God bless you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jill, Dr. Alice. Thanks to all of you who listen, watch.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.